The goal of this tier list is to help people gauge what they should be building their decks to face, so that we don't all waste our own time and effort teching and practicing into irrelevant matchups for this meta. My confidence in where I'm placing these heroes comes from testing with 3 to 4 different testing groups every single hour that I've been awake since the reveal of the Rosetta cards. But obviously everything's still up for discussion. I do this because it is simply my coping mechanism to help me deal with the fact that they killed my boy Kano. So to start the tier list, we'll start with Kano. I'm pretty sure he's probably like bottom of B, top of C. It's rough. So pretty much the consensus is, or at least from my testings, is you've lost a lot of your really good matchups. Those ones including Assassin, Guardian, all of these. So Guardians can now go back to running AB3 and maybe prevention effects. They can probably still just get you with AB3. The stacking is very, very, very hard and RNG. It's not really replicable, or not that I've found so far. It's not really replicable in the sense that if you draw your Blazings early, you're going to have to pitch stack them for a third cycle rather than a second. So what happens is you need to be able to Kano into your Wildfires first and play them buffed, and then Kano into one of these new resource cards in, I forgot their names, the one that draws 2 cards, Surge, and the other one, Overflow. If you don't draw your Wildfires and then your Overflows first, instead you draw your Blazings first, what ends up happening is you can't block with them or anything, you have to pitch them to the bottom of your deck. By the time you get back to there, you can't Kano into those first, and then Kano into the Surge cards, obviously. And you're probably not going to have enough damage if you Kano into the Blazings and then the Wildfires. You're probably just going to lose the AB3 at that point. So yeah, very sad times. The tempo matchups are also more flippy. I'll add that on top. So taking away the tomes has really reduced the consistency in the deck. Not being able to churn through your deck like an extra 10 cards when you're counting, if you are able to Kano into a tome and then play the 2, you're kind of in a 57 card deck. Even if you just play it from hand, you're kind of like a 58 card deck. So 2 times 6 or whatever. So you pretty much had a 48 card deck, and they kind of took that away. So a lot less turn 2 kills. You'll still get them here and there, but yeah, a lot less consistent in the tempo matchups. Stacking is very hard, near impossible, not really replicable. I'm depressed. But yeah, onto Arakni. At least Kano's not as bad as Arakni. So with the release of Nuu, there's just absolutely no reason to ever go Arakni. Nuu just does everything that Arakni does, but better. If you're trying to fatigue and like run them out of cards, Nuu like takes cards out of their deck, plays them, has just better specs, all these other stuff, has better equipment. Like, there's just absolutely no reason to play Arakni as long as Nuu is in the game, and probably even when Nuu's gone. So sorry, Arakni players. But speaking of Nuu, I do think Nuu is, I'm gonna move them slightly, like up and down. I think she's like bottom of A, top of B right now. For this to make sense, I'll kind of have to like pair the explanation with Enigma, who's like probably undoubtedly going to be in the S tier. But to start off with Nuu, so Enigma is going to gatekeep her a lot. And then what Enigma kind of does is she'll kind of bring back a lot of aggro decks to combat her. And so Nuu will have a decent time into them. But there's a very big problem in that some of the other heroes I'm going to be putting up the top, Nuu can't really face them. Most notably the Nuu Earth heroes, in which the Earth heroes can actually banish off of Nuu's stealth attacks by just blocking with their Earth cards, puts them into banish, and like, I've had test games where like the Nuu can't just pass because they're going to lose to inevitability through the Earth heroes like late game combo stages. So they have to attack with stealths, and then they just get quad blocked, like over blocked with 4 Earth cards, turn on the hero ability on like actual turn 1, turn 2. So yeah, Nuu's going to be having a rough time into both Enigma and the Earth heroes, which I do think are both going to be very good. So bottom of A, I had her at B, but I was talking to a couple Nuu mains where they were saying she's not that bad if you get to face your good matchups. So yeah, I'll leave her at bottom of A for now. Enigma, so obviously the only thing that was holding Enigma back was Zen. Besides that, she doesn't really have a bad matchup as long as she can tech for you. There's definitely the point in which she gets stretched out on what sideboard card she's able to run. So it can be pretty interesting. I think she's a lot more targetable than Zen, which is going to make this meta like a lot more nice to play as opposed to the last meta. The big point with her is she's going to be kind of like a you must be this tall to play kind of deck. gatekeeping a lot of the more defensive decks. So it's going to be really hard to play a full fatigue kind of list, or like even just a go tall kind of deck when Enigma is going to be around in the meta, because yeah, she's just going to farm you. You're not going to be able to keep her off her board at all, and then she's going to 10k you to death pretty much. So yeah, there's going to be a really big emphasis on decks needing action points to be able to keep Enigma off of her board and race her pretty much. So that's the Mist Heroes. Going into Azalea, well actually there's still Zen, isn't it? So I do think they did enough to Zen. So I think Zen's pretty bad. Obviously the whole deck's going to get warped. They're going to probably have to lean into Tigers, and there's just like the numbers are completely different. It's probably still good into Enigma, which is pretty funny, especially when they get to run Shukos and stuff like that. So maybe it could still come back as a counter pick. I won't put them in D, which is pretty funny. They just completely gut a hero, and Arakni is still worse than that. So that's an interesting point. But yeah, I wouldn't like completely put Zen off the shelf. If like the meta is 90% Enigma, then you can probably play Zen, but obviously that's Magical Christmas Land. I don't know about that one, Chief. But going into the next one now. So Azalea, I still think Azalea is a solid pick. There's a slight problem though. So Warmongers is still a card. Was hoping that would get at least restricted in CC. Having 3 of them can be pretty annoying. I do expect a lot of heroes to be running more Warmongers, especially with how strong the Rune Blades got after this set. I might do the Rune Blades next because I'm super excited for them. But back to the point. So Azalea still has a decent matchup into Enigma. Enigmas can definitely tech for it, but it's, yeah, kind of a lot of extra sideboard cards that they probably can't afford to use on her. Instead, they have to use it onto the more popular and more meta-orientated decks. But yeah, she's still just super above rate deck, hyper aggressive, evasive, great card advantage, like just a really good deck, always going to be good. So I'll keep her maybe slightly above Nuu. Going into the next ones, I'm going to do the Rune Blades, like I said, because I'm super excited for them. So who's the first one we got on this list? So we got Viserai as the first one. Viserai is very good. So he's either bottom of A or top of B. So lots of really big upgrades from Vis. So I think he got like 40 upgrades to his main deck. So very good. What the upgrades have done as well is it's really increased his consistency. So he's always able to do the morph, shrill, pitch, weapon, whatever, like do the thing. And he's also got extra extenders, like the middle cards. So like the Swarmings, the New Swarming, Revel, Dirge, all these extra extenders in the middle, which is super good as well. But the thing is that 4, you can keep doing that thing, and he blocks very well now. A lot more 3 blocks, especially on non-attacks and all of that. You can keep doing that thing though, and sometimes it's just not enough. Like you kind of need to have your big Mordred and Revel turns like very consistently. I do like Vis for how consistently slightly above rate he is, but yeah, I wouldn't say he's like the greatest. I actually think that Vynnset might be slightly better than Viserai, which is like the craziest thing to me. So I've been testing a lot of Vynnset. I think you can build her in a way, well, I know, I've been testing her a lot. You can build Vynnset in a way where you actually don't brick at all. But there is a problem when it comes to decks that are just trying to full fatigue you and don't even swing, because a lot of your hands you do want to block with, say, if you draw extra Rune Gates, something like that. But I do think you can tech in a way that you run extra cards on your sideboard. Maybe you present a 69 card list, 69 card list with extra go-agains, extra like Revels and just go tall spells. But yeah, big inclusion with the 6 Incans and 3 Sonata Galaxias. These are just absolutely core. In all my test games, I think I'm undefeated with Vynnset, by the way, throughout all my testing groups. It's just like one of the most nicest consistent decks. Like you're going to have an Incan out by turn 2 guaranteed, if not on turn 0, turn 1, whatever. You're going to have one out by turn 2, and you just have so many of them now and like are able to draw into them that they're going to chain into one another all the way until you run out of cards in your deck, like unironically. So, and everyone knows like the difference between Vynnset with an Incan out, no matter which one it is night and day when you compare it to a Vynnset without it. And yeah, so Vynnset's very good. I think she's slightly above Viserai, which is like insane. I'd actually put them here. But Viserai has the slightly better consistency and he might have a better plan into fatigue. So I could see them switching if Vynnset actually cannot deal with fatigue, but there's hope. I think there's a lot of hope for her. So while we're doing that, might as well do the third Rune Blade, the last one. So I do think, and I've definitely seen from some of the testing groups, I think Florian's going to be the best deck in the format. So there's a lot of things to consider here. So if you consider Enigma's going to be the best deck, it's actually got a really decent matchup into Enigma, depending on the build. Enigma kind of forces you off being able to go a full OTK variant of Florian, but he actually has a surprisingly strong, like, aggressive build into a switchboard with OTK, especially one that I've got. I might share a deck tech with that later on. But as for right now, I do think he's like insane. I think he's got one of the best equipment sets in the game now with Face Purgatory. That new Earth chest is insane. And Grasp of the Arknight. His boots are a little bit lackluster, but obviously you can just use those as your flex slots for like Null Rune, the Earth boots. Spellbounds you don't really use. I've even seen some other variants with like Snapdragons and go hyper aggressive with like Snatch and stuff. I don't really like that version though, no flame. But yeah, the aggro variant has a really great matchup into Enigma, and then you can just run that same like OTK sideboard package, similar to like how Viserai would do it against other ones, because you just have a Mordred on your hero ability, so you actually stack up twice very fast, so you get an inevitability into all these other heroes. Also, just big shout out to Felling and the Command and Compost. Yo, shout out O3 Dropcast. Is that who it was on Twitter? Did I see that? Goated name, actually. So, yeah, Command and Compost. I'll put the pictures on the screen. These two cards are so above rate that not just one of my testing groups, like multiple of my testing groups, literally like they tilt and like get mad when you cast them. Like Felling's just a 2-card 11. Like swing for 8 and force bottom a card. Usually the card like is going to take more than a 3 as well. Like say if you take a card that like blocks for 4 or like swings for 4 instead. So like it is so strong, bro. I don't know. These Earth cards are like so pushed, especially when you compare them to like the Lightning decks, which I guess I'll do those ones next. But yeah, overall Florian, like insane equipment piece. Great matchups into everything. I think he has the card pool to be able to combat anything as well, giving him a really good matchup into actually everything. Like you're probably never going lower than a 45% into a matchup if I'm thinking about it. And yeah, so last Rune Blade and also Lightning, which I was hinting towards, is probably Aurora. So I actually want to put Aurora in B. I think her spec is kind of broken. I didn't realize that it worked on things that like your equipment and your weapon. Everything that gets go again also gives go again to all these other like attacks and stuff. Lightning Press is still a hell of a card. It's very hard to fatigue her. There's an anti-fatigue package that we run in our deck, and we've tested it, and it definitely holds true. It's very strong. I'll just leak the tech, fuck it. So pretty much you can set up Arc Lightning plus Flicker Wisp. And pretty much you can pop things like Aether Ironweave into your boots to give instance go again to ping for 2 like that. And then you swing with your weapon with the other resource, which is going to swing for 2 and then ping for 2. And you can end up getting like 12. I think the highest I got was 18 value out of the go agains from a Flicker Wisp Arc Lightning turn. Just from those 2 cards, it dealt 18. That's not counting all the attacks that were on the chain. So yeah, very, very cool deck. She's giving me a lot of Fire-esque kind of vibes, like back when Fire was first released. Very simple, very nice to play. Not much leeway in what your opponents can do against you. D-reacts do suck, but like they just suck in general. Like suck for her when you get your stuff D-reacted, obviously. But you do present enough on hits, and you have like nice, decent damage. There's just a problem when it comes to armor and these lightning heroes. So they're pretty weak to disruption, and that is a bad timing, especially when Earth heroes have come out with some of the most insane disruption cards that I've ever seen in my entire life. But yeah, so the timing's a bit awkward. That's why I'm not going to put her any higher than B. She's probably bottom of B, like close to Kano. I'm going to move him up because I'm depressed. But yeah, probably close to Kano in that sense. But overall, yeah, really good deck, really solid. Probably too weak to disruption, but yeah, actually overall really impressive. With her, we'll do Oscilio while I'm here. Yeah, I don't think Oscilio is the best. This one I've probably had the most test with besides Verdance and Vynnset. I've actually tested with them a little bit more because, yeah, I kind of got off the Oscilio hype train. There's just a lot of fundamental flaws in the deck building of them. So you need to run sigils to be able to activate your Volta. They're essentially your pitch cards, and you can get an extra value out of them if they're lightning because it'll buff one when you play them. So you need to run these sigils. You also need to run X amount of arcane spells so that you can abuse your Volta. If you don't draw it, your turns are very, very, very below rate. You also need a lot of lightning go again cards, where surprisingly there isn't like that many unconditional ones. Well, if any, there's like 6 really, if I'm just counting the reds. So unconditional lightning cards, you need like instants to do something with them to be able to do stuff with it, because you don't want to just run all sigils because they're actually below rate cards. So there's a lot of fundamental problems when it comes to Oscilio, because if you have to run these 0 block sigils that you play them for only 1 point of value and maybe you get your value back next turn, you're actually behind in a race and you start on 36. So when you have your power turn, you kind of just catch up to them, and then you have to have a second power turn, which is kind of hard to set up. I will admit his power turns are very, very good and almost toxic. Mind Warp is a hell of a card. Same as Channel Lightning Valley in this deck. It's like very, very strong. But yeah, lots of fundamental problems. He just folds to any form of disruption as well. If you like disrupt him, I think like his good hands can go from like 23 damage all the way down to like actual 8 if you just send any form of disruption, which is like, yeah, getting folded by that is like very tough. His armor is like, again, not very strong, especially when you're considering it against like Florians or Verdances, like the other new Earth heroes. Their equipment suite is just so pushed. It's so strong, especially Florians. But yeah, so you don't really get to run that much block. So you are just going to fold to these. Then you can't block the disruptive attacks. It's like very tough. I do think he's probably weaker than Kano, but I have hope. There's actually hope for him because he's just a very hard deck to build. I've seen other people's builds of him, and some of them are obviously way better than mine, and I haven't gone to test their list just yet. So I could see him go and push into maybe where Aurora is in the B, maybe top of B, mid B, something like that. But looking at the meta, I don't think right now he's going to be that great. So we'll try and speed run the next couple of heroes though. So Betsy, I actually think Betsy's new spec is like really good. She's probably like the bottom of C. I'll move her up from D. She's probably the second realist guardian. I was going to say the realist guardian, but I actually rate Victor like a little bit high right now. I'll put him like bottom of B. So obviously there's a problem with like Enigma and stuff, but now that I'm looking at like putting Victor in B, I'm not too sure. He's probably going to go C if you like consider him against all these other matchups. Like you might be able to fatigue like Vynnset, but the OTK Viserai and Florian sideboards are really going to dampen you. You can definitely aggro down the Enigma and maybe get there if you play a full hyper aggro Victor list, but I'm not too sure how consistent that's going to be. Also, you can do the same with Nuu, but that's still like a pretty bad matchup. You could probably tech in a way that you don't run all the 6 blues now. No, because you're going to need Rouse to be able to combat Enigma. See like how the thought process is, by the way, side run real quick. See how like you can actually determine decks and like what you're meant to tech for when you can see a tier list. That's why I actually like think tier lists are super useful and like helpful, and why I wanted to make one. So yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna put him here. He's definitely the best guardian. Like his tester strength and all these other cards are like super strong. The other guardians are also just like piss weak, so sad for them. But yeah, we'll put him in C just because the meta's kind of bad. But I do have hope for him, is the thing. I think Victor can definitely do some things that will do something to the meta. And so after those ones, looks like I forgot Verdance, which is crazy because I've actually tested with Verdance the most. Shout out to my boy Juju and also Gray. We've been brewing up some Verdance. So I think she's just off of S, and it's just because we haven't like tested everything yet. It's a big process. So pretty much Verdance is going to be pitch stacking Kano, but into every matchup. We've pretty much confirmed it. It's not exactly like Kano, probably nowhere near as toxic as what Kano was, but Verdance pretty much has access to an OTK combo in which she can present 25 arcane into 26 minimum. And so obviously that gets around AB3. So if you AB3, you take 22 and then 23, which is 45 damage through AB3, AB3. So just AB alone is not going to fix it. But on top of that, you're also not pitch stacking it really. Like you pitch stack it into certain matchups, into matchups that think that they can fatigue you. They cannot because you have an OTK combo. So that's when you'd pitch stack it. Otherwise, you just play a normal regular game with all these pushed earth cards, like I was talking about before, the Felin, the Command and Compost, just all of these cards are so pushed, disrupt your opponent. It makes it really hard for even the most aggressive decks in the format right now to actually kill you. Like I would argue that they just straight up cannot kill you first cycle. Just building you all the time in the world that you need to be able to play out your healing pots. You don't even need all of them either because your opponent can't really block these attacks. If they do block the attacks, you're just pitch stack it. I don't know if you guys can hear that. You're just going to be pitch stacking the Rampant Growth's OTK combo, whereas if they do block it, but if they don't block it, then what's going to happen is they're going to be on like 25 is the most often life total. They're going to be on something like 25, and then you're going to do your Rampant Life combo, and you're just going to kill them from 25, and it's like with less of the combo is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I think Verdance is a real problem. We've got her teched in a way that we're kind of sacking a little bit of equity into matchups, like the aggro matchups and such, because they're so free, just to be able to combat Enigma a little bit. So my deck looks very weird, but it all makes sense when you actually play the matchups. Again, this is why you need these tier lists. Because yeah, I think a lot of the other Verdance's decks look good on paper, but you need to be able to beat Enigma. So you can tech it in a way that you beat Enigma and then you beat everything else as well. Like you don't lose too much equity in the other matchups. So yeah, I think she's going to be S. I'm a little bit biased on that and I do want other people's opinions, but yeah, I'm going to put her S because it's my fucking tier list. I'll do whatever I want. So yeah. Boltyn, I just don't see a reason to be playing any of these warriors, especially when Enigma's a thing. Also, Boltyn, I'm pretty sure, I'm not the biggest Boltyn knower, so I might be talking out of my ass here, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't do that well into Rune Blades, if I'm correct. Like, he does really bad into Rune Chance. It's pretty hard to AB when your whole deck's yellow or red, not really any blue cards. I also think, no, I could see him probably beating decks like Verdance because you could just go the Sabers combo. But yeah, I don't see much reason to be playing Boltyn if you're looking at all of these Wizards, Enigma, disruptive decks, and yeah, all that into Boltyn. Definitely above Betsy though, and Zen. Actually, Zen should be like down here. I'd put Betsy above Zen. That's a cap. I'll go like this. Bravo, I actually think Bravo is worse than Betsy now because of that new spec. Bravo just has no hero ability. At least Betsy's one gives +1, so there's like actual value in it. Yeah, not much to say on Bravo. How the mighty have fallen though, right? Like, I'm pretty sure this time last year he was like the best Guardian, and then Victor came out, and now, yeah, poor guy. But yeah, so, this one's interesting. We just move on to the next. I don't know if any of you guys have a full dedicated Dio main, but if you do, you understand that Dio, when she gets her new cards, she's probably best deck in format. When she gets that Cerebellum processor, and even the zero cost boost guy, like, I can't even explain the things that I've seen. it's like trauma, bro. It's actually like traumatic seeing the things that this Dio deck can do with Cerebellum. So pretty much, if you don't know, Cerebellum is a blue card that you can crank. It's a zero cost. If you ever play it off the top, it's like Pot of Greed on steroids because you play it off the top as an instant. You can crank it for an action point. You're going to be able to draw a card there. You'll draw a card in the next turn and the turn after that as well. If you can keep it a third turn, which you can because it comes with 2 crank counters, you're going to get 3 draws. Plus, you're also going to get 2 damage out of your weapon. So it's one of the most cracked fucking things I've ever seen. I want to shout out one of my bros, Zune, who hit me with this like really good quote kind of on this. It's like they burned all the books, but they forgot that Dio has an encyclopedia. I thought that quote was fire after watching what Dio can do. So shout out to Zune though. But yeah, she's easily going to be the best aggro deck in the format, not even close. All these other matchups that were able to fatigue her by just blocking for 3. Like if you could just block well, you were able to fatigue her in previous metas. That's just gone now. Like the Cerebellum, pretty much all of her bridge turns are going to be very above rate now, and they're going to leak. Her power turn ceilings have gotten taller because she can also activate Cerebellum on those turns as well. Your deck's just so action point rich that you abuse these Cerebellums like to one of the most crazy extents that I could have ever even imagined if I didn't see this shit in game. And then also Spark for Cerebellum, get an action point, draw a card is just Pot of Greed, and then it's going to draw you another card the next turn. It's similar to playing it off the top, but yeah, like you can do it off Spark and crank it, get your 2 damage. Even at the end of the chain, you just draw your card and then you get an arsenal. It's like, yeah, Theo's going to be a problem. So right now for my list, I have her here because the meta's going to remorph when that dash thing deck comes out with the cards in it, because they're not out with Rosetta. So when those cards do come out, I do believe the meta is going to morph a little bit to combat her, and then maybe Enigma falls off, and then the more disruptive decks come up a little bit more. But yeah, so I'm going to leave Dash right here. Just know that she's going to be best aggro deck in format, not even close, and a lot of her problems got solved and her ceilings raised. How about that? Yeah, be scared. Dash, I actually have 0 testing or knowledge on how good Dash is. I've just been focusing more on Dash IO. I can't expect it to be bad though. I'm pretty sure you can still play the Hanabi tech into Enigma, so if your deck has a good Enigma plan, or you combat everything else in SNA, your deck can't be bad. I'm going to put her below Vynnset. That's just how high I'm rating the Vynnset and Viserai from all these new upgrades, including the equipment, like how big those upgrades actually are for the decks if you guys test them. But that's not to say that Dash is worse to them. It's just to say like Dash maybe has a slightly different spot in the meta for them. Like I need to test her against these Earth heroes. In theory, she has a good idea on what to do if you go the pistol plan, but I don't think they outdo the OTK variants of these Earth heroes. And if they don't go the pistol plan into the Earth heroes, you're just going to get straight fatigued, and it's not even close. So it'll be interesting to see what the Dash players come up with. But yeah, I think you have the tools to be able to combat all of this. Dori's probably not the best when Enigma's in the meta. This one's similar to Dash. I haven't really tested her that much. Don't really know how she goes into these Earth heroes. Runeblades, I could see her being fine. I'm not too sure what that matchup's like either. Yeah, I can't really say much on Dori. Someone in the comments is going to have to help me out a little bit with that, but I don't even know which one's better, Dawnblade or the other one. Maybe attach it's because Enigma? Yeah, I don't know, sorry. But Fire just got spat on in the ban announcement for no reason. Just ban the Art of War. Bro, that Firebrand banning has got to be top 10 funniest moments in Fab history. Bro, just take away his only card, Art of War, and then while he's on the ground crying, kick him again, spit in his face, bro. Like, why they ban like Tome of Firebrand for no reason? Probably still better than Arakni, but yeah, probably like second worst deck. Yeah, we'll just chuck him there. Kassai, I'm guessing Kassai is going to be like similar to Dori. I don't know when to pick one over the other, so sorry, I'm very like not knowledgeable of the Warriors. I kind of just watch Josh Lau if I want to learn about Warriors, so yeah, there's that. I'll just put him there. I don't know if they're even better than Zen and Betsy at this point, but going into Katsu also got shat on and then spat on. Bonds of Ancestry's gone, so that's a double ban because now Dishonor's also gone. No, you can't name things that are non-legal cards in the game with like Mask of whatever, changing names, I forgot what it's called. So you can't even do that. So like he actually got double banned from the Bonds ban and then triple banned if you count the Art of Wars as well, which obviously you count, that's his power card as well. So yeah, Katsu maybe worse than, well not maybe, it definitely is. Bonds was actually like a card he played. Tome of Firebrand would have just been like something that he maybe falled back on. So holy crap, they just like killed the ninjas. But obviously Ira's coming out, hype for that. So she's probably going to be best ninja, well hopefully. But yeah, so ninjas are pretty dead. Going into the brutes, I think they're still A if I had to put them both somewhere. Levia's a bit flippy. I've seen the builds that they're trying to do with the other weapon and all that, just to try and play like above rate. But I'm of the opinion that they're still pretty weak into Enigma. Like Kayo definitely has to just run Scabs and Gamblers and just roll every turn, because the one turn you don't have extra action points, you're just going to get swarmed and then 10k'd and then you can't win. So I could even see them being like down here, and then Levia just still has consistency issues. That Call by the Grave, by the way, is really good. Is that what it's called? Call by the Grave? Well, I just call it Entomb. But Entomb's very good. One of the most evergreen cards I've ever seen, like for Fab. I'm super excited for the effect. But yeah, doing the Entomb for Beast Within essentially means it's a pseudo blue 6 power that also turns off Blood Debt, that also fills your graveyard with at least 1/6 and another card, which is important for your cards that banish 3 cards from your graveyard, obviously. You get 2 out of 3. And that's for actual 0 cards. I guess it's like kind of a card. You lose cards from your deck maybe and you lose a life, but who cares? It's a blue 6 essentially. So yeah, I think it's a really good tech. I've seen people talking about you put cards like, I forgot what they are, but the cards that you can play from Banish, you can just like tutor them, put them into your graveyard, play a card to banish them. I think it's a bit cute. I hate drawing into those cards, which is like really annoying. So, but there's definitely like insane amounts of values there, and now it's like all matchup dependent. But yeah, I think it's a really big upgrade. Obviously, that's a much better upgrade than KO's no upgrade. So I think she's slightly above KO at the moment. But going into the other things, I do think Brutes don't really like versing Runeblades. The matchup's not that easy. It's kind of flippy. They have to be super aggressive to get there. Enigma matchup's tough. Nuu is obviously like just an annoying matchup for them. And I don't think I can see them beating Earth Heroes. Well, yeah, I know that they can't beat Verdance, like almost 0%. These, yeah, new Earth cards and Earth equipment's just pushed, and they both just have like OTK, better late games than them. They just run you out of cards, fatigue you, and then, yeah, you get OTK, especially as Brute. Yeah, so I'll put Levia slightly above KO, but this is where I'd put them. Maxx is real as fuck. Maxx is probably like up here. Insane matchup into Enigma, like actual just 100% matchup into him. All his worst matchups got deleted from the game, which are the ninjas. Like decks that were just way too hyper aggressive for him to do his plan of make 2 hyperdrivers, then the 3rd, then the Maxx, then draw into Octane and keep your hand and do your high Octane turn. He also got insane amounts of upgrades in that dash deck as well. So that 0 cost boost that gives you a steam counter. So it's another, it's a 0 cost boost for your high Octanes just for damage. If you boost it off the top, it's a crankshaft. When you're able to boost one of those, it's essentially a whole card, because when you don't boost a crankshaft to put a steam counter on one of your hyperdrivers, you actually have to save cards like that last spec. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting all the names. Recharge and the new blue one that's like a blue recharge, but makes extra ones. Essentially, like you had to play those to be able to keep 2 hyperdrivers, and then you can make your 3rd. But if you're able to boost into a crankshaft, you are able to put a counter on one, and then you don't even need a card. So it's almost like you draw a card when you are able to do that in the early game before, when you're trying to set up 3 hyperdrivers. So yeah, the upgrades are massive, and just extra blocking equipment, which is like perfect what he wanted. Like Maxx is real as fuck. Matchups are good. His bad matchups are dead. Yeah, and mad upgrades. He's going to be a real menace. So I'm excited to play a little bit of Maxx. Shout out my boy Luke, though. Yeah, Maxx is real. Looking at Olympia. Olympia just got murdered as well with Cashin. Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, I'm putting Kassai lower as well. I know some of the Kassais, or like the better lists, well, I won't say better, but like the lists that have achieved more, or like the players that have achieved more on Kassai, we're talking real bad on Cashin, but it's still a debuff. Like not even getting the option to be able to play Cashin is a debuff in itself, whether you played it or not. So yeah, I need to put Olympia down there, because I guess gold is the payoff. But yeah, it's not yet. So banning the Cashin, pretty tough for these 2 warriors. I'm just going to put them down there. Enigma, the meta's terrible for them. You can't really play a value game with these Earth Heroes that are going to OTK you. I don't even think they can fatigue dash anymore, like unless you go a full fatigue build. But you cannot play a full fatigue build in an Enigma meta. Like she's going to demand decks to be as aggressive as possible. You got to be this total ride kind of thing. Yeah, going into Prism, I do think Prism's probably slightly better than these other B heroes. She lost her Tome of Divinity, which is going to make her a little bit prone to fatigue in theory, but also in theory, I'm pretty sure you can just play like a Iris sideboard package with the shimmers and stuff, and you'll probably still be able to get there. I think she actually takes a little bit of splash damage with all these decks wanting to play hyper aggressive if she was to play into like an Iris sideboard package. And then essentially like you can just get raced down when you try to do that plan anyway. So maybe it's not enough. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's still hope. Obviously, if your deck is just bad against Prism, not enough poppers, and like you can't fatigue them, she's gonna fucking mop the floor with you. But with that said, yeah, losing the tomes is a really big deal for her other package. She's not going to be able to mono lag anymore. So yeah, she's got some ups, she's got some downs. Need to see what my boy Bnet cooks up with her. Yeah, going into Rhinar. I think that new Rhinar card is opening up an avenue in which you can play like all the windups and do kind of what you did in Heavy's draft, in Heavy Hitter draft. So, which was discard a windup that's a 6 or 7. Intim you turns on double claw and then you swing with a 2 cost off of 2 blues. Yeah, off of 2 blues. And that list is hyper aggressive. Like you can just like OTK some people. Like you just take cards out of their hand so they can't block. They're like forced to race you back. The question is that enough? I'm not too sure, but it's definitely a plan and it's surprisingly works pretty well. So I'm down to put Rhinar at bottom of B. If someone cooks that up, maybe Pablo Pinto or something, can cook up a like really good wind up claw 2 cost list. I think there's enough 2 costs to make it worth, and then obviously Blood Rush is just a hell of a card. Maybe one of the best cards in the game right now. Probably second to Felling, broken card. But yeah, Rhinar pretty good. I'd say he's above all the C heroes right now. Going into Riptide. Riptide's a little bit weird. Enigma's matchup is good if they don't tech for the Riptide, which looking at the meta, it's like pretty hard for them to tech for everything. So I doubt they're going to choose Riptide out of all these heroes to tech for. So that's a lot of EV for them. But I don't see him ever beating like these OTK Earth heroes. He probably gets like just Omega fatigued. It might be like as bad as like how the Victor matchup was. I don't even know if he can fatigue Dash IO anymore. And like that's Mech is meant to be one of his easiest matchups. Like this IO upgrade is like insane. I don't even know if I put these here. I'm probably gonna go like this. Like Nuu's definitely bottom of A like that, and then yeah, I'll put Azalea here. Maybe it's like this, if anything. So yeah, if you look at the meta like this, I'm not too sure. Like I don't think he's gonna beat the Rune Blades. Like just too much split damage. You're gonna be taking way too much. His damage is pretty good back, but if you don't disrupt him, you're gonna let them like get their value blocks until they get their power turns and then just like blast you. But yeah, I don't think he's gonna be like doing all that well into like wizards that OTK him. Probably an unfatigable mech now. Enigma, like Maxx is just gonna box you, and yeah, I don't even think you beat these. So like top 7 heroes, I'm already putting you down in B, probably below KO if anything. If I had to do it anywhere. Going into Teklo, I think I'm pretty sad, but I'm pretty sure if you ever want to play Teklovossen, you might as well just play Maxx. It's like literally just the worst Maxx, and you don't have a sideboard plan to go hyper aggressive. I think all the equipment pieces and stuff are like cool, but it just doesn't do what he needs them to do to fix a lot of his matchups. So I'm probably going to put like Teklovossen here. I definitely don't think he's like Terra bad. Well, I'm not calling Terra the hero bad, by the way. Like terrible, bad, mixed, forget it. So yeah, he's not bad. Just play Maxx instead though if you're going to play Teklovossen, which is a shame. I love playing Teklovossen. Like he's actually one of the most fun heroes, but if the meta was like brute heroes and such, I could see it, but since it's a lot of split damage, OTK, Enigma things, I don't see it currently. So yeah, pretty sad for that one. And then there's Uzuri. I always rate Uzuri like lower than Nuu, but then shout out to Shoma, my hero. I don't want to put her down into C. I'll just put her there because it looks good, it fixes my OCD. Yeah, this kind of looks good, no? I had a reference. I have a reference tier list on my other monitor right now, but yeah, I think I upgrade it a little bit. I think it looks pretty good here. But obviously everything here is up for discussion. Hopefully I put out some points that maybe you learned a little something, one or two things from. So maybe you can gain something from this video. But yeah, I will say, I think if your deck isn't prepared to face and fight these top 4 heroes at least, let alone all these other heroes below them, then I don't want you to be wasting your time and effort, is why I'm making this. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully this will help streamline all your guys' testing process in this really fun meta. I'm super excited to see how all this goes though, and I'm loving life even though they killed my boy. RIP Kano. Bye.